everybody, and welcome to Geopolitical Trends. My name is David Walalu. So good to be with you as always. I hope your week is going so far good, and so you're just enjoying the day as it comes. So, anyway, so excited to be with you here, guys, because I wanted to talk to you about this topic of India again. Now, there are those who will say, "Why am I focusing on India?" No, it just that's how it happens to be that the core issues that impact the geopolitical and economic trajectories, happens to be zooming directly when it comes down to India. Of course, there are other issues of let's say Australia, which I will address in a live stream also because Australia is preparing militarily with Germany, Japan, and yes, India also is going to be involved in some. So I will be talking about all this later on. For now, we're just gonna be dealing with this issue here. So welcome everybody, and please type in when you are joining me from. So this way, I know it's a slightly different time. Usually, I do the lives around 12:30 my time here. I had an interview in Washington D.C. and so the timing because this was pre-scheduled. The decision about this live stream, I just did it last night or yesterday rather, so that's why I couldn't change that one. So but in any event, you guys are here, so I'm so excited. Well, like I always do, guys, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks to the channel's members and supporters, and I want to give shout out to the new channel member, Joy Cho. Thank you so much for becoming a channel member. So we are now at a 53 members. So like I promised you, once we reach the 100, which I hope we can reach by the end of this month, I'm going to do an exclusive Q&A for you, and I will share a surprise only for you guys, for the members, that is. So today's topic, what are we going to be talking about today? So I'm going to be talking about India's turning down a $1 billion investment from China's BYD corporations to build electric cars and batteries in India and in partnership with a local sort of company. So you ask, like I always say, the two or three main questions. What's really going on? Why India is embarking on these policies that is impacting the average Indian citizen? This is the reason why I'm talking about this, because I'm seeing the writing on the wall as to the long-term impact of these policies. So because I don't shy away from it. So I got nothing against India. I got nothing against Prime Minister Modi, but I will put some questions forth for people to think. So if you happen to be a person from India watching this, don't take it personally. No. This is just providing the argument. So the next question I will ask is, why Prime Minister Modi is jeopardizing the interests of Indian workers, Indian businesses, and Indian economic developments at home? Because it's a legitimate question to ask. And again, I'm a student of history. And I'm going to share one story with you about the former Prime Minister Atal Vajpayee. So it's on the opposite of what Prime Minister Modi is doing. So, but yeah, before I'll delve deeper, I'm going to share with you some headlines from around the world. So, like I always say, a tour around the world. There are some interesting developments. So let me share a picture with you, so you'll see what I'm referring to here. We're going to start the first with, of course, this is the image of the BYD, the Chinese BYD corporations or company cars, that is. So this is what the topic is going to be about. So let's start with the first one here. Oh, I'm sorry. It's this one right here. This is the Nigerian president. So he was detained today at the presidential palace. Yeah, you believe that? So it's almost like a coup is unfolding. Makes you just wonder. Nigeria was doing fine a month ago, right? Or only 2 weeks ago, or only a week ago. And do you remember when I mentioned to you about NATO being in the Sahel area where the Niger is? I'm sorry if I said Nigeria. It's Niger, not Nigeria. Niger. So the Sahel area. So do you also remember when I mentioned to you about France disclosing the amount of gold it has, its reserves? And France doesn't produce gold. So where that gold came from? From Niger. So, the president of Niger, as I said, it was held by the presidential military guards. That is, so African and international condemnations and calls for respect of the legality. So this is what's surprising, because he was detained. His name, by the way, the president, his name is Mohammed Bazoum. So he was detained inside the palace in the capital, Niamey. So, and by the way, the military now issued a warning that they will storm in if the president is not released. So it will be interesting to see, first of all, who was behind this and why now. So the second headline I would like to share with you is this one here. And this one has to do with tomorrow's summit between Russia and Africa. It's going to be in St. Petersburg, by which the President Putin will be addressing the African delegations coming to St. Petersburg over dinner on Friday. So President Putin will discuss Ukraine with the group of African leaders in a working dinner at the summit in St. Petersburg on Friday. So, and I confirmed the story here. So the Russian news agency quoted the Kremlin saying that. So, and the third story that I want to share with you is one that I made a video for you guys. Which is about Japan releasing that contaminated water. Yeah. So check this out. Look at those images here. So a fish living near Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant that melted back in 2011 was found to contain astronomical levels of radioactive cesium, stoking fears now about the Japanese government's plan, because it's about to release 1.3 million tons of so-called treated water from the plant in a matter of weeks. So that is very concerning. So for you, if you happen to live around that area and all that, I'm not a medical doctor. I am not a biological scientist. I am not a nuclear scientist, but I am a health nut. So I watch about health issue. My advice to you is you're going to have to think twice about consuming that fish from that region. That doesn't mean you can't consume fish from elsewhere. It depends, again, how fast that contamination is going to spread. Because if there are those who are thinking, it's going to be limited to Japan, they're mistaken. They are mistaken. So, let me say thank you to KL. Thank you so much for your super sticker. KL is, again, one of those individuals that have been really supporting both channels, this one and the other channel. So I can't thank you enough, KL. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it. All right, let's dive into our topic. And once again, guys, I have nothing against India. I'm just providing the facts. And speaking of India, be on the lookout tomorrow for a live stream. I'm going to have a live stream with an analyst from India, okay, with Parveen Saini. So I already posted this for you guys. I'm sure you saw it. Let me share it with you in case you didn't see the post. I don't know if you will be able to. So let me share the screen with you. So you'll see, share screen, post. There we go. That's Parveen. So I'm gonna be having a live stream with him, a conversation tomorrow. It's gonna be in a different time. It's gonna be 8 p.m. my time. So it's just the timing, and it will be recorded anyway. So you guys, if you don't get a chance to watch it live, you'll watch it later on. So once again, just before I delve in deeper into this, it's nothing against India. I'm just presenting the facts, and if they don't like it, well, that's too bad. Again, I don't sugarcoat things, and I don't worry about how people feel, because I am not in the business of emotions. I am in a business of providing facts providing logical arguments and allow you to reach your own conclusion. I am not here to make decisions for you. I will never do that. Don't ever expect that from me, because it's not right. So what's at the heart of all this is that India just rejected BYD Motor proposal to establish a $1 billion manufacturing facility in India. And the reason for it, and get this, guys, which is the playbook, because this is what prompted me to address this topic. India is adopting the playbook of what we in the United States, dictated to other countries to do as far as the Huawei. You all remember, and I'm going to give you examples. So basically, India is saying, "Oh no, we do have security concerns associated with Chinese investments in the country." And I put this in quote because that was the New Delhi's government signing. And like I asked at the beginning, you remember that question, guys, when I said, is Prime Minister Modi jeopardizing the interest of Indian workers, Indian businesses, and Indian economic developments? What do you guys think? Please leave me an answer on the chat box, and I will get back to it after I'll talk a few things. I'll talk about a few things here. So the car manufacturer, the Chinese car manufacturer BYD Motor, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct because that's my English pronunciation, BYD. So if anybody can type in how do you pronounce it over there, so that would be great. So it has introduced, this company has introduced 2 electric vehicles models into the Indian market. So this was reported. And this is why we have to put this within the bigger picture. And before I'll delve deeper, it behooves us to know at least a little bit of history of what this company is all about. And I did research it briefly here, but I'm not going to spend too much time about its history. So as far as the company's background, the BYD is a major Chinese automaker. And by the way, before I continue, guys, I want to make sure the sound is working correctly. So give me a thumbs up, please, just to make sure, because I can see, I'm looking at my notes and I won't be able to see your notes. So if you give me a thumbs up that the sound is working. Sound is good. Thank you, Steve. Truly appreciate it. Thank you so much, Steve. So the background history. So BYD is a major Chinese automaker. There is based in Shenzhen, Guangdong province. And it sells vehicles over there under the BYD sort of brand, because it's a brand. So, well, the company was founded in 1995. And why is this important, guys, for you? It's just to show you the progress. When that company was established, it wasn't, who heard? I didn't hear about it at that time. I did hear about some companies start to think about the focusing on batteries, electric batteries, and so on, but we didn't pay much attention. Why? Because we didn't expect it to be what it is. And why am I bringing this up? Because that's what India needs to be thinking about. India wants to have the profit overnight. It doesn't work that way. So the company here, BYD, which was founded in 1995, started out as a battery maker at first and entered the automobile business in 2003. And what happened with BYD at the time, the company diversified. And when I say diversified, into different areas, still under the same umbrella. It got involved in cell phones assembly, and it got involved in solar cell manufacturing. So leveraging its strength in a battery maker, the company developed electric and plug-in hybrid vehicles because the market for the hybrids start to grow. So BYD Corporation Ltd is, by the way, a public listed Chinese conglomerate manufacturing company, which is headquarters once again in Shenzhen in Guangdong province. BYD chairman, his name is Wang Chanfu, who was once the richest man in China still, as a matter of fact, based on the research that I found, as of 2000, I think 15 or 16, still sort of has the supreme power within the company. And Mr. Wang holds about 23% stake in the company. That was as of 2000, I think 15 or 16, somewhere around that, making him the largest shareholders. And of course, here is the interesting aspects of all this. BYD is a subsidiary rather, of none other than Berkshire Hathaway. Well, if you know Berkshire Hathaway, who runs Berkshire Hathaway? Who runs it? It's Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett bought into the company in 2008. I guess he saw where the trend is headed, and now sort of is still a major shareholder in the company for about 9% stake. And again, why am I highlighting this? I'm highlighting this to provide an idea as to why India is not seeing the big picture. So for Prime Minister Modi automatically to say, oh, we have security concerns and all that, when in reality it's not about that. In reality this is my guess again, and my opinion, is he's been pressured not to allow that. It's the same pattern that followed the Huawei, when India allowed other companies, but not Huawei. And the interesting thing about this investment proposal by China, that the Indian companies will be involved as well. This is not a solely or 100% controlled by China. No, it's not. So, and what was in this investment plan? Because you need to, or proposal, that is, because it's not a plan, it's proposal, because it's been rejected anyway. That includes a plan by BYD and Mega Engineering to set up a charging stations in India and build research and development and training centers. So just take a step back and think how much Indian workers will benefit from something like this, how much Indian economy will benefit from something, and how much infrastructure that will be built for this. It's not like India has this infrastructure all over the place. It doesn't. And it's mind-boggling how India all of a sudden, Prime Minister Modi, when I say India, I'm saying Prime Minister Modi. As a matter of fact, it was one, let me just share a statement with you guys here, because it was an important statement from one of my viewers here in the channel. And perfect point. And he mentioned that for Indian people, they are good people, that is. The blame lies within Modi's BJP, the political party, that is, which is increasingly moving into some direction that is not in line with what democracy is. You look at, for example, the tensions, religious tensions that exist. And again, we're not pointing fingers at India, we're just highlighting the fact, for minority Muslims and minority Christians as well. So yes, Hinduism is the majority, which is fine. This is where the beauty of India. Yeah, it's beauty because of its old civilization. But the policies that they are embarking on recently, it's just mind-boggling. So when you start suppressing civil liberties like that, religious freedom, that is, it becomes problematic. So, and this is where I'm seeing the decision of Prime Minister Modi as being a tool used by the West, because that's where I see it, and that's where I see the problem lying ahead. That's why I'm hoping some individuals in charge in India will be watching this video and sort of ring a bell for him or her to say, you know what, maybe we need to reconsider these policies. It's because the way my big concern about India is they are not realizing that they are being sort of the policy of divide and conquer or divide and rule strategies being imposed on India. As I told you, I will be doing a video about India being involved with the Quad in Japan and Australia's military trainings and so forth, sending the wrong message. So, and now when you have an economic development like this, and India blocking that, makes you just wonder. So, and this is where I see the concern. And again, nothing against India. We're just providing the argument here. So these joint proposals sort of comes aimed stricter investment rules, which is ought to be. India ought to have rules, and I am sure they do, sort of starting since 2020. But this scrutiny of investments from neighboring countries like China sort of made other investors from either Europe or US think twice. We all heard about what happened with Foxconn, right? We all heard about Apple moving its operations from India and going back to China. So we all heard about the idea of what was that one? The Huawei being turned down in India when India allow other countries to set their own projects for the smartphones and so forth. Because Europe suffered the same outcome when the US forced European countries to ban Huawei site insecurity. I'm not saying that those countries shouldn't be thinking about that. I am not saying that they just open the door willy-nilly. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is you're going to have to think about the investments as to where things are headed. Because here's the thing. In the UK, I believe, in the UK, Huawei was operating because UK told the US, no, we're going to have to, because the progress. We still here in the US operating on a 4G. We don't even have 5G across the all sectors. I mean, by now we do, but we still, when Huawei came out, we didn't like it. And because here's the thing, I'm giving you the example here, guys, of the space station. Yeah, I'll go as far as space. I'm giving you the example to highlight to you. When, for example, we banned Chinese from entering space station back in 2008 by a congressional decree, we passed a bill in Congress not to allow Chinese to have access to the ISS, International Space Station. What did Chinese end up doing? They end up building their own, and now they are far ahead because they are on the moon. Some of us are already questioning whether we have been on the moon or not. I'll let you think about that. So, and why am I providing this example? Is to highlight that India could be working towards establishing its own for the long term, but it's going to need to have assistance at the beginning. It's the same pattern that China did when we, some American corporations, went to China at that time. We were doing business there. China allowed us to get in. China over time learned how the business is conducted and so forth till they became self-sufficient. And now look where they are, the Chinese, that is. Even for the chip industry, the chip manufacturer, which we were trying to impose a blockade on the chip manufacturing by pressuring ASML in Netherlands, for example, not to allow the transport or the sale of certain equipments, China ended up building its own. For example, the last research that I looked at, China was able to develop the 4 millimeters small. China didn't reach yet the level of 3 nanometers, but I can just see it within a year and a half, max of 2. They will be able to develop that because that's what TSMC is all about in Taiwan. It's the 3 nano, So by us embarking on that policy, we end up shooting ourselves in the foot because now China is not allowing any U.S. manufacturers to have or purchase anything from China. It's the same pattern I'm seeing here. So the investments of $1 billion in the Chinese in the Indian market, you will think that will sort of allow India to think about, well, we can enter into a joint venture. Of course, it's the Chinese that's coming with the money. Well, India doesn't have that kind of money to invest in stuff like that. So, and this is the thing. So, the Chinese owned automaker SAIC's MG motor unit, that will be the one that is coordinating with the local partners. That means Indian or India companies will be involved in the project. It's not just Chinese, and this is what India didn't disclose. But again, like I said, is Prime Minister Modi in this case jeopardizing the prosperity, economic that is, and the welfare of the Indian workers? Because that means an investment of $1 billion like that. That means job opportunities, especially in a country where the poverty is high. So it's just mind-boggling. And by the way, BYD has entered the Indian market since 2007, producing batteries and components for mobile phone makers back then. Even for the phone, while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to give you an example about to highlight to you that it's a playbook for when we cite security and so forth. A few years ago, here in the United States, when iPhone, I think iPhone 8 came up or something like that, the arguments that was made here in the US, well, you can buy the phones made in China. There's certainly equivalency of them. Why? First of all, China was selling those phones for $128. And I remember this. That iPhone 8 here in the US was about $600. So 128 versus 600. Which one are you going to buy? Okay. So to prevent that from happening is that the US went ahead and said, oh, no. Those phones are not good, first of all. And second, there are security concerns with it. Well, basically what we wanted to do is we wanted to limit the access of that Chinese products into the US markets, because Americans will end up buying one that is cheaper and functions just as much as Apple. It's because Apple produces its products in China at that time. So they went to India and now returning back to China. It's the same argument. So back in 2013, to go back to my point here, BYD started building electric buses with a mega engineering company. And this, by the way, was under joint venture with an Indian entity called Electra Green Tech. So, makes you just wonder, BYD coming up with $1 billion project that will, first of all, create jobs. Second, that will allow for the creation of infrastructure that India will benefit from. And also the living standard of India will go up. Instead, and this is where I'm leaning towards, and this is my personal opinion, India has been pressured to turn down that investments at the expense of its own economy. It's because we don't want India to rise economically. That's what's at the heart of it. We want to keep India where it is. Like I always say, India has potentials. But apparently the policies of Prime Minister Modi seems to be going against that trend. So, and by the way, the BYD, for those who might not know, stands for Build Your Dreams. So that's the title. So I'm saying just the short version of it. So the company sold about 1.86 million BEVs, battery electric, that, and plug-in hybrids in 2022. 1.8 million parts. So in India, we're not talking global market, in India alone, EVs or electric vehicles made up just over 1% of a total car sales of 3.8 million in 2022. But the government wants to grow this to 30% by 2030. Indian government, that is. So the decision comes after a change in Indian investments regulations in April 2020. That's what happened. So, but again, I'm going back to Prime Minister Modi's trip to Washington and the policies he embarked on after he returned. So, and again, I am going to do a video about the Quad and how Australia, India, Japan preparing now for some military aspects of it. So, it's mind-boggling for me that there is no way Indian politicians couldn't see this. That just I don't get it. No. So despite all this, just to give you an idea, despite all this, some have said, well, maybe for the better that BYD, that this proposal didn't go through, so BYD will not end up losing money inside India, because India doesn't have infrastructure, doesn't have the good investment the investment environment. So maybe it worked out. Maybe not. So, but here is the interesting aspects of all this. India and China, they maintained, believe it or not, they maintained the bilateral trade volume for over $135 billion. They are large markets. You can't ignore. This is what I always say. For India, you can ignore the sheer size of the market. Now, the contribution of India to the global economy, no, it's not in comparison to China. It's like this. There is no way. But the sheer size of the market, just as far as consumer base. But you ask yourself the logical question. If the consumer base doesn't have money to buy things, what good will that do for your investment? Nothing. So you're going to have to move elsewhere to a market where people can afford to buy those items. So the bilateral trade between India and China, as I said, it was about $135 billion annually. However, the auto neighbor have been embroiled in a border dispute since May 2020 in the Ladakh area, which I am gonna do one day once I gathered again. I am aware of the problem in Ladakh. I'm aware of the history of it. It's always nice to go back and recheck once again. So I intend to address this issue of Ladakh, and I might even bring it up tomorrow with my guest, who is an analyst from India, because he is from India. He will have a better understanding of this issue. But after May 2022, the Ladakh area disputed in Jammu and Kashmir region. Well, we all know the Kashmir issue also with Pakistan. Those are very sensitive issues to both Pakistan and India. But for us, is we can use it as a pressure point for both countries, India and Pakistan, for three countries, India, Pakistan, and China. Yeah. So this is why I'm leaning more towards, India was pressured to back down from allowing the proposal to move forward, because we don't want, that's exact thing is what took place in Europe with Germany. And I did talk about this before with the two pipelines, Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2. Okay. Nord Stream 1 is controlled by Russia. Nord Stream 2 is controlled by Germany. And at that time, when Nord Stream 1 was established and gas was flowing not freely, but cheap from Russia, because Russia produces so much, the economy of Germany went up. And that's why you start to see in the boosting of the car manufacturer like BMW, like Mercedes, like what's the other company that is well known in the world? I drew a blank on it. Anyway, it'll come to me later. So it's chemicals. Then there's BSF, which is a chemical company. So all this because it was access to energy. So all of a sudden, we start to see the German economy going up, because the whole Europe economy, because of Germany. Germany is at the heart of the European economy. Take Germany out, Europe will go down. And this is where we start to think in terms of how we're going to sort of sabotage or limit the progress of Europe as a whole. It's by threatening Germany with sanctions the moment they agreed to Nord Stream 2. Yeah, we threatened Germany, an ally. So, and this is where this Ukraine issue comes in, because we never wanted Germany or Europe, for that matter, to get closer to Russia, because economically they will move up. This is, I see, the same pattern. We don't want India to move up economically. We want it to stay poor as it is. We want to stay with the crumbling infrastructure. We want it to stay locked in or marred into quagmires of the border with China, of the border issue on Kashmir with Pakistan. It's because we can use that to our advantage. That is what's at the heart of it. So and this is where the idea of Prime Minister Modi not seeing the big picture, it's mind-boggling. As a prime minister, you will have to think about the welfare of your country, the prosperity, economic prosperity, that is, of the Indian people. So, and here is the thing. This venture, this proposal, by the way, it wasn't about just short-term live. It was about long-term strategy. This is not about just €1 to your project. No, because the longer-term plan was to build, or is to build, a full lineup of BYD brand electric cars in India, from hatchbacks to luxury models. One of those sources people say. What does it mean when it comes down to employment? What does it mean for infrastructure? What does it mean for foreign investment? And this is why. Is India shooting itself in the foot? Yeah, I would say. So BYD, by the way, is the world largest producer of EVs and plug-in hybrids vehicle. So, of course, for now, they are reconsidering their options. They didn't respond yet to India's objection, and India has its right to object if he wants to. If they want to keep their country at the bottom, then BYD can't do nothing about it, because it's the sort of the decision of India whether to allow them or not. But I am certain other companies around the world are taking notice and saying to themselves, forget about investing in India, because you can't. You can't. The market is not conducive. If you are a CEO of a company, you're going to think twice about investing in India. And maybe this was a blessing for BYD. I don't know. I can't speak to that. So this brings me to think about when India, this is why I had to compare to a degree the policies of the current Prime Minister Narendra Modi to those of his predecessors, like, for example, Gandhi, like Manmohan Singh, like Atal Vajpayee. And I used to read up, especially about Atal Vajpayee, that he was not only a prime minister, he was also a poet. He used to write poetry. I used to read up some of his translated work. Very bright guy, but also was thinking in terms of the welfare of India collectively. It wasn't about just one specific sect inside Indian society. It was about the whole. And the best example I can give you about his tenureship, Atal Vajpayee, back then, is when he turned down U.S. request to send Indian troops to Iraq. Yeah, we asked India to ship its soldiers to Iraq, and Vajpayee said, no, I am not sending Indian troops to Iraq. Can you see Modi doing that? Because here's the thing, and this is the reason why I'm going to be talking about Australia, Japan, and the US and India's military activities now in Australia. Just imagine with me for a second, if a conflict broke up in the region, let's say with any country, not just China, but mainly it's going to be because all this is aimed at China. So if do you think we're gonna have to sort of think twice about sending Indian troops? We're gonna ask Prime Minister Modi, say, hey, send in troops to the front line, and if you don't like it, we will sanction you. That's what's gonna happen. If Modi thinks that by the time we build the naval hub in India, he's going to have a say into that, he's mistaken. He will not. It's no different than Australia right now. Australia gave up its sovereignty. Japan gave up its sovereignty. South Korea gave up its sovereignty. As a matter of fact, we are sending now a nuclear submarine into the Korean peninsula. This is why North Korea yesterday launched 2 ballistic missiles as a warning. So I don't see how India could say or refuse. Yes, India did refuse when the US asked India not to purchase oil from Russia. But now things are changing. Russia's realizing, well, when it comes down to India, they flip-flops. So we're going to have to think twice about the amount of oil we send into India. We're still going to send or sell oil to India, but we're not selling extra. Why? Because India is going about selling that extra to Europe and keeping the profit. So that is where the difference is. So for the BYD's expansion in India, because India is not the only market. India is just part of a global strategy for BYD to expand, because it has a global expansion and it's getting bigger. Why? Because it's going to be challenging Tesla now, which is the lead in the sales of EVs alone. Yeah. So this is, once again, as an analyst, I'll take a step back and think, does India doesn't see where it could benefit from all this? Do you think people's going to be buying Tesla, or they're going to be buying BYD? Tesla here in the US is about $75,000. BYD is going to be running at about 40, 35, 38, 40, 45, even 50. Which one are you going to buy? Why would I spend $75,000 when I can buy a car for $50,000? Yes, it's the brand name and all that, but it's doing the same thing. It's the same argument I made about the cell phones. When China produced the same cell phone as Apple here, that cost $128 versus the Apple that was sold here for $600 back then. And we said, no. You can't allow that here for cause of security. It wasn't about security. It was about concern from Apple, because Apple also has the back door to the government, by the way. Just FYI, those big techs here in the US, those are the back door of the US government, just for those who might not know. So Apple made it clear that the government needs to step in and issue some sort of warning security, because if it comes from the government, say, well, of course, the government knows what it's talking about. It wasn't about that. It was about profit. That's almost the same thing now they are working on regarding the digital currency. Did you guys know that now the globalists and the central banks and all that, they're working about now suggesting chips, you'll chip your body in return for $2,000 on a monthly stipend. You all know what it means. And that's a conversation for another day. I'll be happy to talk about it. If you guys like me to do that, just leave me a comment that you want to have that topic, and I will. I have the information. I know where I got it, and I'll be happy to do it. So this is where the issue. I just don't understand why India's reluctance to all this, but it's going to end up impacting India's long term, because BYD is going to go ahead and find another markets, and I'm sure they can. I won't even be surprised that they might even open up another market in Indonesia. How about Malaysia? Or even go as far as Africa if they want to. Now, I won't be surprised. India is not the only market. So because even Tesla, and here is where the catch. So Tesla, what's interesting about all this is that by the time India objected to the deal, Tesla recently restarted the talks with India about putting plans to enter once again the Indian markets. But Tesla is not going to do it. Tesla just giving a lip service to India. And even if they do it, if Tesla will go back to India, it will be on a limited, because the quality matters. And once you start having the poor quality in Tesla, who's going to buy them? This is where the concern from Tesla, but this is where India comes in as far as being used. That's how I see it. So, and mind you, BYD already invested $200 million in India. So where it sells, I think, the what's called the Auto 3 electric SUVs, and the I think E6 EV to corporate fleet in India. But all this now is going to have to come to a decision at the corporate level in BYD to decide should we pull the plug from India altogether. And I think exactly what Huawei did, just put the plug out and go somewhere else. So there are plenty of markets. So this is where I see, because BYD will be missing out on time. Time is money. Time is money. So if they keep entering into negotiations with the Indian governments, and they're going to be flip-flopping Indian government that is back and forth, nothing's going to be achieved. Because BYD is thinking in terms of the big picture. And the big picture I'm referring to here is with the BRICS moving forward. They already, as I mentioned, lined up of countries wanted to enter into BRICS. That will open up new markets. BYD is a publicly held trading company in China. The currency will come to play a role into this. You all see where the big picture is. So, and I am sure India understands all this. Why? I don't know. It's beyond me. I don't understand it. And I can't just speculate. So India will have to decide moving forward if they want to have some sort of a role into the electric vehicle market. Let me say, Jose Carlos Costa, good to have you as a channel's members. Truly appreciate you. So now we are about 54. So guys, just as a reminder, if we reach 100 by the end of this month, I'm going to go ahead and do a Q&A for the members only, but I'm also going to share the surprise with the members of the channel. So just consider becoming a channel members or supporters. And for you, by the way, if this is your first time here, please make sure to subscribe. I will really appreciate it. And thank you for your continued support. I truly mean it. It means a lot. So let me say thank you to Route 55 Qatar. Thank you so much for your super sticker. You wrote Foxconn canceled $19 billion US joint venture with Vendetta. Yes, indeed. Wow. It is an example, guys. So its companies will have to move on. They can't just be held hostage. India doesn't want BYD to invest $1 billion. Then BYD is going to have to move on. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. And like I said, guys, there are markets out there. Let me say again, thank you so much to Jose. Jose, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. So thanks again. It just the market's going to have to move on. I mean, think about it, this guys. Europe right now, especially Germany, is shifting to China. We don't hear much about it on the news. I talk to people in Germany. I have family lives in Germany. I was in Europe recently. And Germans are saying, German companies saying, no, we cannot ignore Chinese market. Are you seeing German companies going to Indian market? No, they won't. BMW opened up a new factory or in China, not in India. assembly line, I should call it. Yeah. So there will be other markets. And now you think about it this way with, for example, speaking of the super sticker from, let me see this one here, from Qatar. That was the name, Qatar. Why am I thinking of Qatar is because of the investments from the Gulf states that they are moving to China's markets. It's because of the investments. They're not going to invest in India. Yes, India just had a deal with the United Arab Emirates by which they trade in bilateral using the rupees. But that deal wasn't, it won't cut it. United Arab Emirates did it because it's left out. It's a political move disguised as an economic. Because United Arab Emirates doesn't want to be left alone. Because you got Qatar, you got Kuwait, you got Saudi Arabia, you got Iran, all the Gulf moving into Chinese market. You're looking at, especially Saudi Arabia and Iran wanted to join BRICS, and they will. A reality, you can't sort of what's the word? Flip it upside down. Reality is a reality. It's what's going on. So. And we shall see how long United Arab Emirates is going to hold its bilateral trade in rupees. Mind you, by the way, guys, actually, I am having it right here, and I'm going to pull it up for you because I need you to see if I can put that on my Twitter feed. It's easier if you follow me on Twitter. I am at Diwalalu. It's because I do a lot of stuff on Twitter. And just to let you know that, and this was posted by none other than Richard Turn. He's a friend of mine. And I'm going to have him on the channel here, guys, one day. I'm going to invite him here. So Richard, he posted that now for the first, yuan tops the US dollar in China's bilateral trade. Let me share this with you guys so you guys can see it. All right, share the screen. Share screen, all right. Notification X. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see this one here, but no, you can't. It's the, I can't zoom out on it. So anyway, let me read it for you guys. What it says. It says that for the first time, yuan tops US dollar in China's bilateral trade. Yuan was used for 49% of bilateral transactions in the last quarter by itself. So the logical question, what percentage was rupees used? It's reality. That's why I said you can turn the reality upside down because it doesn't make any sense. So. And this is, again, where I see the mistake, the strategic mistake, that is, not the strategic mistake that it's going on right now with Indian policy. Yeah, that was from, thank you again, Route 55, Qatar. That's why I said Qatar, because Qatar had to cut a deal with China for 27 years in delivering gas. And guess in what currency they're going to be trading in? Yuan. United Arab Emirates has been left alone. That's why they figure out, well, we may as well just cut a deal with Indian rupees. But they're going to find out the same like Russia did, having so much rupees of no use, basically. This is where it's going to be. And this, I am waiting patiently for the meeting of BRICS to really read the statements about the currency and how they intend to proceed with all that. So, all right, guys, let me see if there is any, as a reminder, remember to join me tomorrow. Let me share something with you about by the way, I had the interview in Washington, D.C. yesterday. If any of you wants to listen to it, I'm going to share it with you there. And remember to join me tomorrow for a live stream with my guest from India, Parveen Soni is going to be joining me. So, All right, let me see if there is a question. All right, let me see. There's a question here from Question More. Thank you for your question, by the way, and appreciate you being here. Question: did India has the purchasing power to buy BYD products? Of look at citizens are very poor. I see your point. I see your question. Well, remember, BYD is coming up with the money, not India, because India doesn't have that kind of stuff. It's BYD that is coming up with but it's coming up in a joint ventures with local companies will be involved to a degree. But yeah, the majority will be for BYD because there's the ones coming up with the money. So India cannot afford that kind of stuff. So where the problem that I see, like I mentioned at the beginning, is the Prime Minister Modi jeopardizing the economic welfare of the Indian people. Just for a moment, take a step back and think about the number of jobs this investment of $1 billion could create. And India has a massive population. Sometimes it's not a blessing to have that many because that could become a hindrance and problematic. And I think India is going to be facing that serious problem. The social or the demographics explosion sometimes is not a good thing right away. So that's the way I see it. All right, I'll see one more question here, guys, and I am going to sign up because I have to go prepare some stuff for you for the next videos that I'm going to be doing, and we just go from there. So be on the lookout for a video on Friday, I think. I will do that. Hi, Boone. Good to see you, Boone, as always. All right, let me see if there's any question here, and if not, I'm gonna sign off, guys. And I always appreciate you being here, and thank you for keeping it civil. I truly appreciate it. Oh, Hongwan, thank you so much for your super sticker. Truly appreciate it. You wrote, what is your views on the American military guy running from South Korea to North Korea, and what will happen between US, South Korea, and North Korea? It's interesting. I can just provide you a glimpse of what is, but I intend to do a video on this. You know, for us to be sending a nuclear submarine, and for us to hire Japan to be tracking any Chinese submarines, it's not good. It doesn't bode well. But it's the idea of we're going to be using India also. Because remember, India also has a good navy. Not to the standard of, the US and China, but it does have a good navy. We can't deny this. And I will be talking about this. I don't know if you guys want me to do it on a live stream or do it on a recorded video. You let me know. I'll be happy to do both. So yeah, I see problematic, especially now with Australia, because we have our own Navy personnel, US Navy personnel were marching on the streets in Australia last week. I'm going to dig deeper into this and provide you an assessment about it. But I can just see it's not going to bode well for what lies ahead, especially with NATO expanding into Asia. So it's going to become almost like what took place in Ukraine. The question that's going to become is which country is going to be used. Will it be South Korea, which I don't foresee. Because we know what the reaction of North Korea is going to be. It's going to be Philippines. I don't foresee that either, because we won't want to trigger massive retaliation against any base we have in Philippines, because we have our personnel there, which will be targeted because of the short-range missiles. Guam will be targeted as well. So what's left? Taiwan? Well, yes, it could be, but it will be a suicide for us, because geographically, we will be the one that have to move all our assets unless we use the locals. When I refer to locals, Australians, the Japanese, the South Koreans, and now the Indians, and of course the Philippine military as well. So that's why it's going to be very, very complicated. I read one day, and I'll share it quickly here before I signed off. I read some analysis way back, suggested that from the person that he knows what he's talking about. And usually I won't say these things loosely unless I check and double check, and I have my ways of finding all that stuff up. The possibility that World War III could start in the Korean Peninsula. What do you guys think? Because I do see also some signs to that. I hope it doesn't, for the sake of us all, for humanity. I really hope this nonsense of wars and conflicts and stop at some point. I mean, we've had enough. We've had enough. Live and let live. Till when? We're just passing through. Now you got the evil Victoria Nolan now running for becoming Undersecretary of State. It's alarming, you know. And this is why it will be problematic if the Democrats win the re-election, which I don't foresee them. Again, she cannot be holding that position. Look what she's doing just with the position she is at right now. Can you imagine when she becomes the Undersecretary of State, which is the next step to becoming Secretary of State? That will be problematic. And this is why I am very surprised at the attempted coup in Niger that just happened. Niger was fine last week. So it's very, very, very concerning. So, all right, guys. Well, I hope you find this very informative as always. And I look forward to seeing you next time. As always, remember, geopolitics impact your daily life in more ways than one. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.